And then I can try some kind of an introduction here, whatever that might turn out. So Kyle, you are heavily into tech, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say it that way.
Whoa, and you get crystal clear video and audio. Man, I'm so jealous.
Well, we have I don't know what you guys have for bandwidth over there, but I'm pretty happy with our network guy has us with 1 GB up and down. So,
Yeah, I don't know what I've got. Uh, I know I sure don't have too much light. Anyway, it's the North Pole, so I guess that's the way it should be this time of the year.
Yeah. And he's just sitting on the AT2100 USB mic there. So,
yep.
Who is Kyle?
That's me. Kyle. Both of us, right?
I don't even know what my. Oh yeah, it is ATR.
Okay, you get the 21. Nice.
2100. Yeah.
I didn't break mine out, Joe. I'm sorry.
I've been having these huge problems with everything connected to streaming, both audio and video. So I'm really glad to have all these pros here. By the way, I've been having. Yeah, go ahead. Did I step on someone?
I think I started playing the video in the background on YouTube, and then it sounded like you were cutting yourself off. But
I guess so. I hope I'm not doing it right now or soon. Pretty often I manage to mess things up in one way or another. Surprisingly, this seems to be going smoothly so far, at least. Okay, shoot, it's 4 p.m. And time for a fully professional introduction for Be Smart on Air EduTech Talk. I guess that was the deal. This being the super cool YouTube podcast, whatever combo from the North Pole that is very northern Sweden. And I'm telling you, it's winter here. Temperatures are way, way down and looking the way it should, actually. Quite a bit of snow and Christmas. And it was also a little bit dark this time of the day, especially here in my, what would I call it? This is like studio. I wouldn't dare, especially not this time. In this tiny room, I had a bit more light here earlier, but it just like quit. So I'd better just try whatever I've got. And this is really tons of fun because this time I have EduTech pros here. It might be that I am the only one who is like actually into teaching full time right now, but we'll see about that in a while. The main focus, perhaps this time, podcasting, video, live video, all of this stuff, and connected to education, of course. Not least because I've got Kyle Wilcox here from, let's see, Washington D.C. I believe. Is that right, Kyle?
Well, that would be close as far as the name goes. So the name of our school is Westfield Washington School. So there is the Washington in there, but I'm actually in the Indianapolis, Indiana area. So I don't know, what is that, 12 miles away or 12 hours away or something like that from Washington D.C. So in the central part of in the Midwest of America over here. So
okay, got it. I heard you talking with Jim Collison.
Yep.
Some time back. I mean, he's really heavily into tech, apparently.
Yep.
And I've been listening to his stuff for some time. Most of it is way above my horizon, actually, being quite honest. But your chat was really interesting, and even though you did dig pretty deep into the nuts and balls of this podcast stuff and live video and everything connected to that, but I figured it would be lots of fun to hear a bit more about that. So let's do that in a while. But quickly about your position and your job. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I I went to college and got my degree in teaching for social studies, high school social studies degree. But then after that, after I graduated, I just decided to take a break from education and just I actually just ended up kept working at Best Buy, which is in America. That's our consumer electronics store here. So that was a fun time just to do that and kind of get some of the the more tech side. And then I just got a job at the school district here where I just was in the they call it a tech coordinator. So I just fix the computers, help the teachers, show them, hey, this is why your projectors were not working, this is why we need to plug this in, all the general install this, fix this, that sort of stuff. And then over the last 2 years, I did that for about 2 years, and then over the last 2 years I've kind of transitioned to more of the educational technology instruction. So they call me the technology trainer. So I basically teach the teachers how to use the technology for learning in the school district. So and previously I had been at I was at 2 of the schools, and now I'm a district employee, so I help teachers at all 9 buildings. So that's kind of my role.
Okay, helping the poor teachers with tech, basically.
That's the idea.
It's great to have a resource like that. I'm thinking about my own situation here. I'm a language teacher and try to keep away from this nuts and bolts thing as much as I can, actually. But it would be great to have a resource like locally here. We do have a tech resource, but not just for us in my school. So wow, those schools who do have a resource like you. Congrats. That's basically my view on that. Okay, let's move on. I don't know if Kim in very southern Sweden can hop in. He's kind of in the middle of something as usual. He's been helping me quite a bit with like live video tech and everything connected to Hangouts. How are you doing, Kim?
I'm fine, thank you.
What about a quick introduction to the world?
All right. I'm a G Suite admin and also an ICT technician, and I work 2 jobs. One in a local school and a upper secondary, like high school, as the IT and ICT responsible person. And I also work in a municipality just close to the city where I live. And there I am, the G Suite admin, and one of 3 ICT technicians in the entire municipality.
So,
I've been using this stuff for a while. And
so only 2 jobs for the time being?
No, I also consult for pretty much all
of course.
organizations that deal with G Suite.
I was worried for a while here. But I'm also a G Suite admin, actually.
Yeah.
So far, I don't know what happens in the future, but so far, so good. Perhaps things will be changing in my school district, and the stuff I've been doing has been only actually locally in my school, which has been more than enough for my capacity, putting it that way. Way cool. And between you and me, Kim, talking about the physical world, I think it's something like what might be 600 US miles or something like that.
Yeah.
Even though we are definitely both in Sweden.
Yep.
Yep. Hey, Bjorn, it's been a while, huh?
It has. I mean, I've only barely been getting back into putting myself behind a microphone, so.
Yeah, that's great. It'll be fun hearing a bit more about what you are planning, or if there are any plans. Of course, there are always plans, and what your work situation is presently. But at least you are into Hangout live video stuff and podcasting back again.
Actually, I'm breaking away from that. I mean, I've kind of back up because I haven't been on the show for a while. I actually have a very. We just lost Kyle.
Yeah, just got too much bandwidth.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
you drowned in his bandwidth. Nah. I didn't kick him out, I promise.
How dare he? Well, I have a similar background to Kyle in the fact that I'm actually currently an IT coordinator, but my job is switching. So next year, I'm going to be an integration coach.
Oh,
We're
meaning
doing
what?
a merger. It's same thing. I'm teaching teachers to use technology in the classroom.
Okay.
So doing that, I'm actually going back, and even though I have my master's in education, I'm going back and actually getting my teaching license. And then I'm probably going back to school. I want to do some stuff with curriculum director. So that's the direction I'm going.
All right.
Educationally and helping out teachers. But yeah, no, in the classroom, I think I took the past 2 years, I kind of took a break from podcasting and video stuff, other than what you invited me on. And I was working on add-ons, Google
right.
add-ons, and was writing those. Kind of with my new role next year as an integrationist, I'm kind of switching back and started my Ed Listen show back up. And right now it's just, I'm trying to keep videos about 10 minutes long. Hold on. We have our next going on right now. It's right at the end of the period. I kind of warned you at 10:10.
Yeah, sure. No problem. I mean,
I think you planned it that way for.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle is back, by the way, I guess.
Hey, welcome.
Our internet dropped out.
Kyle.
So, Kyle, what you missed is I'm actually a mimic of you. I'm an IT coordinator right now. I've been one for a while, and next year, because of some mergers, right?
That doesn't matter, Bjorn. It isn't even. I can hardly hear it for my part, at least.
No, it's throwing me off.
Uh-huh.
And then next year, because of mergers, which a lot of schools in Vermont are merging, a lot of districts, I'm going to become an integration coach next year. So I'm going to be helping out teachers doing that. No, but back to Ed Listen. So I'm trying to do more reviews and how-to videos. I created a new Ed Listen channel, and I'm trying to do it through YouTube rather than the standard podcasting methods that I've done in the past. Figured it's a lot cheaper and less maintenance on me.
Do you mean only YouTube?
I am only doing YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to go to the YouTube channel and go that route. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Told you I get distracted.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm switching it up. I'm trying to keep those 10-minute videos and how-tos, and I did some teardowns for Ed. So we're reviewing Chromebooks for next year. So I took a bunch of the Chromebooks that I all got and literally took them apart on screen and kind of about what it's, a full review. I mean, I unboxed it, took out the screws, went inside, said, this is probably going to break. This is probably not.
Wow, that's impressive.
It was fun. And then I actually did that at one of the conferences. I did a session on taking them apart. It wound up being a small session, but I also wound up giving away 4 Chromebooks. I got a bunch of vendors to give me Chromebooks because once I took them apart, the warranty's gone. So I'm like, I can't send them back. To me. And I got them. I got vendors to give them to me and give them out, and it was a cool session. People just don't usually take them apart, apparently.
Apparently not.
Me, I think I've taken several apart before I even turn them on. So, yeah, so I'm just kind of playing with that way. Stole some music from one of my old shows and going from there.
It's kind of interesting. Also, in this context, your background, if we go back a little bit more, Bjorn, since actually you are you are to blame that I got started with what is today called G Suite or those Google Apps way back, because without that script of yours, or the script that you and Andrew Steelman put together, I would never got started at all, for sure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, and I'm not forgetting that. Oh, you still won, I guess.
Yeah, no, I have quite a few out now. That one's kind of gone by the wayside since Google Classroom came out.
Yeah, absolutely. All the best stuff of yours got like soaked up into Google Classroom, if you would put it that way.
Still got some cool stuff out there.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
yeah.
We're running Classroom so far, at least here, and later on, my school district has decided that we'll be transferring to Office 365. When that will be and how the transition will take place is still not quite clear. But apparently sometime. So far, I'm just running the show as usual in my school, at least. Even though things are changing a lot as to the legislation in Europe in May, in a major way, really. And I'm not quite sure of the implications of that either. So exciting times for sure.
I know, just
North Pole.
we're in the U.S. right now. Politics is something you want to stay away from.
Yeah, apparently so. Apparently so. It seems.
Another episode.
But Kyle, about this thing you've been like building or you've built in the Westfield schools. Have you been like the podcasting studios or I mean, it sounded like a major operation, really. Would you tell us a little bit about that and how did it all get started? There must have been quite a lot of funds actually put into that whole thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, my headphones are pretty loud here. Well, we're actually in the podcast studio here. So if I turn my camera, if I turn my camera, you can see this is the podcast studio. So, that's where we're at now. There's kind of two things kind of took us off down this path. Was that one? We had a video production class where students were required to go out, take video on camcorders. Then they would nothing live. They would record, put it on a memory card, put it in their computer, and edit. And we were using some pretty old MacBook laptops that were just dying right and left, and just so old and slow. The oldest version of iMovie or whatever was on there. So something had to be done to address that. So that was a class that we already had that needed to be upgraded. And then about the same time, we also some of the people from our school went and visited a neighboring school in just another middle school that's nearby, just the next town over. And they also had a podcasting studio and a video studio. And so we just kind of took the idea and decided to kind of combine those projects into one. And so that just led us down the path of researching what are we going to use for video editing? What are we going to use for upgrading our existing? And we actually had an existing TV studio that was also at the end of its life. So there was kind of a three-pronged approach. Two of them were replace existing equipment, and then the other one was the podcast studio was starting from square one, brand new. But we just think that producing audio and video content it's important as far as the courses that we have that teach that as far as a skill to be able to do as more of a profession or something. But also any student can use the audio and video to produce to demonstrate their learning, because in the past the learning was kind of just demonstrated as here's a multiple choice test. If you're good at taking tests, you can do good and get an A in the class, and if you're not, tough luck.
Yeah, sure.
We say to our students, what's the best way how do you learn best, and how do you demonstrate your learning best? Is it writing a report? Is it taking a test? Is it making a video? Is it making a documentary? Is it making a podcast? How do these things all work together? So,
right. So you're working in a middle school. The students are like in what age group? 13, 14, something like that?
Yeah, I think 12, 13, some 14-year-olds.
Okay. Do you have, or I guess you do, what kind of a platform do you have for and what kind of devices do the students use? Do they have like their own stuff, or what's the deal there?
Yeah, so this year is our first year doing Chromebooks. So we have all the students have their own Chromebook this year, and that's the first year for that.
So you're running G Suite as well, I guess.
Yep, we have G Suite, and then for video editing we went with WeVideo, which is an online video editor. And so far that's been really good. Anything has its learning curves, and there's some tricks as far as getting it set up and stuff, but obviously if you have bandwidth issues, that's going to be a problem. And upload, you have to wait for it to process the videos and before you can start editing. But overall, just considering the price point compared to buying a whole, if we wanted to do Macs again to replace keep using iMovie, that's $30,000 to $45,000 just to buy a cart of MacBooks. It's kind of ridiculous. So the pricing on WeVideo is pretty great, and they can use that right from their Chromebook. They can access it from home, any computer, any device. So that's pretty good.
By the way, does WeVideo these days have some kind of offline capability as well?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't heard.
Okay.
That, so,
is that an issue for you guys?
I mean, we've been using it since August, and the teachers never come to me and said that there's a problem. So I assume it's working. I mean, there was like I said, there was one time when they filmed something, they wanted to produce it like in the next hour, but they had to wait it was a long footage, and they had to wait for WeVideo to process it before they could be getting any. So they had to wait till the next day. But it's just kind of, you got to kind of plan so that that we're going to film today and we're going to edit tomorrow.
Sure.
Other than, so that it's nothing is, there's pros and cons to every solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for the price and for what you get and the flexibility, it's a pretty good tool.
I think so too. Yeah. Haven't been using it much, just a little bit, checked a little bit. And it was quite a long time ago. So I was just wondering, there was some kind of a, I don't know, perhaps I just heard rumors about this offline thing being tried out or whatnot. If you have a stable network, of course, it doesn't much matter. I suppose.
Kyle, do you do anything with audio? Any of the audio platforms with Chromebooks?
So we haven't used it too much for students yet, but it's available to them. I mean, it's free. It's called Soundtrap. Have you looked into
that? Yep.
So, and that one, I mean, in some ways, that's even a better deal than WeVideo because you get 5 projects for free. And so, I mean, you can just keep deleting your old project and keep using it for free. So that's been pretty awesome. So we are using Soundtrap regularly, and for most of the podcasts. So they use that, and then we have Adobe Audition available, and I'm trying to think what else. So those are kind of the main platforms that we're using for that. We host all of our podcasts on Spreaker. Spreaker.com, and that's been a fantastic platform for us. It's it's really doing what we need and what we want. So
Spreaker is podcast hosting as well. I'm not too familiar with it at all.
Yeah, it's Spreaker is podcast hosting, and you can use other platforms. I mean, the other most popular kind of classic podcast hosting platforms are going to be Blueberry and Libsyn.
Yep.
A lot of times, you can use them without using WordPress, but to take advantage of all the features, you pretty much have to run WordPress, and I did not want to deal with that. So and I didn't want to have to teach teachers and students how to deal with WordPress. So Spreaker has been the perfect platform for us, and they give you 5 hours for free. And so 2 out of our 4 podcasts because we've started 4 podcasts in our district. Am I calculating that right? 4? Yeah, 4 podcasts just this year in our district, from 0. We had 0 at the beginning. So 2 of the 4 have paid the upgrade. So the free version gives you 5 hours of audio content on Spreaker for free as your host. And then the paid version, $60 per year, gives you 100 hours. So 2 of ours are still on free. They have not used up their free allotment. And 2 of them have used up their free allotment and have gone ahead and paid the $60. But I think that's a pretty reasonable price because that's $60 per year. So $5 a month or something like that is pretty good. So,
and of course, there's
a lot cheaper than I was paying for Libsyn from when I was running my podcast. So,
and then there's the poor man's choice that I'm using, and that's SoundCloud, huh?
Yeah. Yep. And
who knows how long they'll be in business?
Yeah, a lot of the podcasters are saying that SoundCloud is a risky business for hosting your podcast. But
absolutely. But kind of.
One of the problems I had with one of the problems I had with Libsyn and all the paid services is that I lost my podcast when I stopped paying the bill. And
you should not do that using Libsyn.
Yeah, they had, I'm pretty sure I don't have any of my old podcasts left. So
what I remember, when you stop paying, your podcasts are kind of hidden, but they are not deleted.
With I don't know when that was, but I've just been listening to some other shows that they were talking about that. But yeah, with Libsyn or with pretty much any of these places, it's like if you stop paying your electricity bill, they shut off your electricity. If you stop paying the hosting, they shut you down. So
sure. I mean, if it's a paid service, so I guess that's the way it works. But
that's where
deleting your stuff without telling you, that would be kind of rough.
Well, I knew it was going away when I stopped. I said, I mean, podcasting is a pretty expensive adventure. I mean, sounds like, Kyle, you're having luck with the school helping pay for it. I think when I was running it, it was out of my own pocket. Nilo, I think it's out of your own pocket, right? At this point,
it's out of my pocket. The stuff I'm doing through SoundCloud, since I bought like this pro account there, but at least I've got the gear through the school, so I have gear these days, which is the main thing actually. I mean the monthly bill or yearly or whatever I'm paying to SoundCloud is close to nothing. Even though I'm not making big bucks as a teacher, it's really not an issue. I just hope they'll stay in business because I do like the service for sure, and there's tons of pretty interesting music there as well if you're into that. So I don't know.
Cool. Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
Your kids do this weekly? What's your time frame that your kids are doing the podcast?
So actually, at this point, the podcast, let's see, most of the podcasts are teachers and administrators right now. So one of the podcasts is at an elementary school, and so that one is more kid based, and a lot of times it's a kid like interviewing a teacher, and those are short. It's like 3 to 3 minutes, on average, pretty short podcast. But that's elementary, so that's good. And then we have our superintendent does one that's like a 20-minute.
How often does your superintendent do that?
Every week.
Oh,
so every Wednesday I meet with her and she interviews somebody, a teacher or somebody in the community.
Like a quickie, 15 minutes, something like that.
Yep, 15, 20 minutes. So that's been awesome. We have one, and then we have another one. It's also here at the middle school, and that is for the counseling team. So they are like kind of building resources for the parents to use. As far as just any topics that they would normally address as counselors, then they talk about that on the podcast, interview somebody. And then the one at the high school, that one is actually students, and they they were kind of slow at the beginning, but they've really started rolling out. They've got some lined up to head out, and I think they have 3 episodes out now, and they have more ready to go. So yeah, so actually now that I think about it, we are doing more student based. So yeah.
That's awesome. The fact that you got the superintendent and you got the teachers involved, I think, is great.
That's
I know,
key, in a way, I think.
I always try and get our administrators involved, and they're hard.
They are. Somehow I get the impression they have lots to do. Not that much time, they tell me. I don't know how that can be, but that's what I've heard a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think I should get my principal into this thing. I mean, apparently he's paid the bill for the gear I'm using, so there must be something in it that is like okay somehow, and he wants to reach out for sure. So actually, I should somehow get him into this for sure. Week or at even a monthly some kind of a quick 15-20 minutes thing would be pretty cool. I like the idea of reaching out from the schools, both for students and the teachers and the administrators for that part. I wonder how common it's in the States, by the way. Not very common in Sweden, I think.
For schools to do podcasting, or for specifically teachers or students?
For schools to reach out, like publishing generally audio, video, or even, like being on the web.
Yeah, I think I mean, from my perspective, I think a lot of schools have really ramped up like their social media presence. So, and I know we've had that for a while. So Facebook and Twitter, things like that, the schools are in.
Do you have those as well?
Probably,
you have like Facebook and Twitter accounts and stuff?
Yeah. Yep. And then I think probably on the video side, probably most schools dip their toes in the water with that when it comes to the streaming the sporting events, football games, basketball games, whatever, things like that. So that's a big deal. And then what else was I going to say with that?
With sporting events, I've heard a couple talking, but they actually could have some issues for licensing because they're often bought.
Yeah, it really just depends on the agreement that you're in with the other schools in your whatever association you're with. So, and I was just reading about that. So basically from what I gather in our area, if we are hosting the game, then we're kind of free to stream or do whatever. But if it's a playoff game, then it's kind of organized by the organization, and then we have to get a special permission if we want to do it from them. So yeah, you definitely have to keep that in mind, and to that there. And then another thing that a lot of schools are starting to do is to either, some of them are doing it live and some are just recording and then posting later, but their school board meetings, they want to get that out there. So that's what would be the next step that a lot of schools are doing with their school board meetings. So
wow.
Yeah, I think in Vermont, or our school, there's a company through the local news radio station that comes down and streams specific games. And then all the school board, which I'm on a school board, gets streamed live, or not live, but gets put on one of the channels, and then there is a live stream you can watch, or the recorded stream.
Are people watching that?
It's funny. Every once in a while, I'll come up with somebody and says, "I saw you on TV." I'm like, "Oh yeah." I kind of forget that it's being recorded. But,
right.
How big's your school? How many students?
I think we have around I want to say around 7,000 students.
Whoa. All right. Then I understand that you perhaps even have a buck or two to a podcast studio and a local tech resource there.
Yeah.
Actually, what I'm jealous of is getting the students, because we only have 400 to 450 in the high school where I'm working. And the hard part is getting the students involved in these projects. And, we can kind of pick and choose some of them, but we don't always get the enthusiasm toward it. We did have one student, I think he graduated like 2 years ago, and he ran his own weather radio station. And it was cool because he did it all by himself every morning. He actually asked for some help, grabbed a green screen from the school. It became famous. So like at all the assemblies, he had to run his weather show. It was really good. And
did he run it live?
What?
Did he run it live on YouTube or something?
He ran it through Facebook.
Okay.
So
right.
And every day he he did the weather. It was so cool, and he was famous. He became famous for it. And then when he left, he started his own media production company. He actually came back and filmed our graduation one year. So, but it's hard because he was we get like one really good student every few years that really is into it. And that kind of pushes the limits, and we'll bring it in. But
yeah,
I think that's our hard part right now, is getting those students.
Should be some kind of a team that gets like fresh folks like every year or something like that.
It works when it starts through a class. I think, like Kyle, you mentioned how you have a video production class, which is designed to get it. Sometimes the teachers, it helps to get the students. I mean, that's the hardest part right now, is I don't have access to the students. I mean,
are you talking about the high school level right now?
The high school level, where I'm.
Okay.
I don't know the students very well, and honestly, if I do know their name, it's usually not a good thing. Some of them are positive. I can admit that. They'll come and hang out, but usually if I know them from a positive standpoint, it's because they're already considerably busy in other things. So yeah, I'm actually jealous of the whole student population and being able to grab those students and bringing them in. I haven't figured out how to master that at our school yet. So maybe next year, when I'm not the IT coordinator, I'm the integration coach.
Yeah, I would. I'm trying to think how. I think our because the 7,000 is like the whole district, or it might be 8,000 now. I can't remember. But the high school, I think, is around like 1,200, 1,300 or something like that. But they have a big focus on, and they like they used to call them libraries. Now they're media centers or innovation centers or whatever, so they have a really good thing going on with there. And they have all kinds of, like, this whole maker space thing. They have tons of stuff. They have kids doing 3D printing and circuit boards and Raspberry Pis, and just that's kind of the center for this thing. So since they've already have this whole dedicated space and room and place or all this other innovation, then the jumping over into the podcasting studio and creating a podcast is not too much of a leap for them. So since we already have that innovation in all these other areas, it's been pretty easy to make that happen. So
innovation, is it, because like I said, we have 2 3D printers, and we got a small project with 3D Vermont that we're trying to get stuff going. But again, it's still, I'm trying to get this project to kind of take on a life of its own. So I don't know who's leading that. I mean, is it teachers coming into doing it for certain projects, or is it just the media?
Yeah, we have a I forget what his title is, but media center specialist, that, like I said previously, the librarian, and I love the way he explains it, because he says, in the past, a library was a room full of resources, and in the past, the only resources that were available were basically books. And he says, so we are still a resource, but we are a resource for books, we're a resource for podcasting, we're a resource for Raspberry Pis, we're a resource for innovation and creating and making and 3D printing. And so all of these resources exist in this, one center now. So that's, I like how he kind of expands on the concept of the library and, kind of puts that out there. So
that's neat. It takes quite a lot of knowledge as well, like being in the middle of that, and like lots of different fields in one place.
Yeah, they keep our library turned to an iMedia center not too long ago, and we have a makerspace room. We have one wall that is painted all green. We went in there, my partner and I, we cleaned it up and kind of made it into a nice space. I've actually recorded some of my latest Ed Listen videos, the teardowns for Eds, in that room using some of the lighting. So I'm just trying to look for ways to get the students in there a little bit more. Kyle, when does your students actually record the podcasts?
That's a great question. I don't know if, yeah, because that's happening at the high school. So we have 9 buildings in our district, and so my office is in the middle school. So I go to all the buildings whenever I'm needed. But as far as what the process is at the high school, I think it's probably either during their lunch, or they have. I think some of the students might be like involved in because I don't think there's a dedicated podcasting class, but I think they're like they might be in like a video production or video editing class, and then they get done with their work in there, and the teacher frees them up to go do that. Or they might just have some other sort of free time into the day. But yeah, I think that's
cool. And how many teachers know how to use the equipment?
The tough one here.
Maybe 1 or 2, I guess. I don't know. Not that many. I mean, at the high school level, I think the kids are pretty much. I mean, they have. I mean, I would say. I mean, from what I can tell, it seems like we've had this video editing class that's been going for so long over at the high school that it seems like there is a pretty good stream of students, and the teacher kind of has a good handle on it as far as the audio video production side of things. I mean, anytime you're doing video, audio is involved also. So they kind of have this feel. So transitioning from the video to making a podcast, I think, has been a pretty smooth step for them at this point. So
yeah, I think once I get my teaching license, that I'm gonna have to put in for a class like that, because like I said, I have students who I know who are probably good into this. We have time because we actually have it's called an inquiry period, a full period where students are free to do inquiry in this type of things, which is connecting them together. And I don't know, maybe it's just because it's new. I mean, we've had the tools, but we've never really had the tools, the freedom, and everything all together. So we'll see. And this is going to be interesting for us next year.
Somehow I feel there's like 2 parts in this in this say podcast and perhaps live video thing in the school setting. One of it is the thing for teachers mainly, like the professional development part, and the other is like more the content from the students themselves, what they create, and both of them are important, of course. Like this live part, I think it's so cool. The very live interaction, it's so neat, and I'd really like to get students somehow into that as well, like experiencing that. I've been thinking of if there'd be some kind of a way to put together like an international newscast or something. I was thinking about this student you've been talking about, Bjorn, the guy who had the weather show. Like something along those lines, but perhaps students from several countries working together and putting together, say, just 5-minute newscast every month or something like that would be really, really cool. And especially if you stream it live and then can have the best of the both worlds, like making a podcast out of that as well. I mean, it isn't that hard if you have the the video to turn it into podcast. Just the live thing kind of being the icing on the cake somehow, and then the pod, a way to reach even more people, perhaps. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like it. What time does your guys' school day end in Sweden?
Sometime 2, 3, mostly. Like talking about middle school students, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, if what did we say? We're 6 hours apart. So if we started, if it was 8 a.m. for our students, that would be 2 p.m. for your students. So
darn time zones, huh? Sure.
But I mean, I think that works though. That's just our students are showing up and your students are leaving. I think there's enough overlap there.
Make it work if you'd really want to. I think it would be feasible. Yeah.
If we were on the West Coast, not so much.
Yeah. And like, just my imagination running wild. If you have people like schools connected in something like that from several countries around the world, of course there could be teams that match somehow. I mean, like teams
have
that
you heard of the
in different time slots in a way.
Have you heard of the mystery hangouts or the mystery Skypes?
Mystery Skype stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a live version of that, which would be cool.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep. I haven't been using Skype for quite a while for whatever reason. But that's a really, really neat thing. But this workflow, the live YouTube thing, and then extracting the audio out of that and using that as a podcast, it's really pretty neat. I like that. Kind of quick and dirty that do reach out pretty well anyway. I think it might work. And the same thing for teachers, PD, professional development thing. I was thinking of what was it called, EdReach.
Yep.
They had tons of shows like professional development for teachers, whatever your subject area. It was everything from librarians to maths to performing arts, tech, everything, and it was pretty neat. I don't actually know how they made it happen. It's pretty loose, kind of a umbrella somehow, I think, but it's neat. There's a hole in this this field right now, isn't there?
There is. It's hard to find out when the teachers are listening to it too. So I mean, I was going to kind of ask Kyle, with do you know what type of listenership is to like the any of your podcasts, the superintendent one to the student one?
Yeah, I can. Spreaker will show us some stats here, so let me pull that up here.
And is there a culture in the school to listen to these? Set up yet?
So let's see here. So on our Spreaker page for our for the one from the podcast, we have 403 plays and 577 downloads. So, if every one of those was a full listen, we have about 1,000 total listens to that show. And I can open up each one and see.
That's good. A lot of those are students and
the one from the elementary school, which that one is targeted at parents. The idea is the students, they talk for 3 to 5 minutes about something that's happening in their school, interviewing a teacher. And like I said, elementary. So that one has 255 plays, 151 downloads. So like 400 listens there. The toolbox one, this one is directed at parents. It's from the counselors. So they're talking about any kind of issue that middle school students would deal with, college and careers, stress reduction, mindfulness, youth suicide prevention, dealing with social media, any of those types of issues. And so they have about 500 plays and listens. And then the high school one that one they haven't really promoted very much, so it has like 30 people listening to it right now. So that one is students talking about, just discussing various topics that they feel like talking about. So it's pretty wide open. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with those, and that's just pulling off, Spreaker. Just those stats are just public on the Spreaker page.
Yeah.
So
any problems commenting and people are positive or negative with the comments and things like that on the podcast from the public?
I haven't. I mean, because I'm just the producer, so I'm not the face of any of these podcasts. I'm just behind the scenes, so I haven't really heard too much. I mean, it seems like, everybody keeps doing them, so I'm assuming that on their side they're happy with it, and they're not getting negative feedback or anything. So,
of course, talking about this live stuff and YouTube especially, I guess it's been a major issue. All the awful stuff, the really bad comments, flooding many of the shows there. I think it's better perhaps these days. Do you have any idea about that, Bjorn? Do you know anything about that?
I have not. I haven't really experienced any negative comments, but I remember listening to one podcaster who was, it was kind of like this milestone that he got popular enough to have rag on him and rag on the show. He's like, way cool, I made it. So he took it as a positive about the popularity of the show.
If you don't get the awful comments, no one knows about you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you might kind of get the, oh, that's cool, that's good, give me a little bit more information. I mean, I got a couple of those already on the teardowns, but until you get that, dude, I don't like this, really specifically, you haven't made it.
Yep. Perhaps there's something to it.
You got to be a little bit more careful with the student ones, because you don't want them to get into that bullying thing.
For sure.
But it's part of being in the public eye.
It is, in a way. In a way, it is, yeah.
But I will
somehow dealing with it as well. But of course, there must be ways to filter the really bad stuff out.
Oh, there always is.
Yeah.
But I think the positives of podcasting, I mean, especially when you start getting into interviews and stuff like that, is amazing. I mean, I did it for like 2 years. I had Google Weekly and then Ed Listen. Actually, I think longer than 2 years. It was the connections I made. Like, Nilo, you and me are friends. I consider you a good friend, and you started off as a listener. This has been the best connection out of those 2 years that I've made. And there's another podcaster that I kind of got to know a little bit too, and just some of the interviews and things like that. I'm looking forward to getting my YouTube show up and going, and also getting some interviews in there, and we'll see how it's a newer platform for me. I'm noticing that a lot of the YouTube platform and the YouTube channel seems to be a very popular channel. I'm seeing a lot of people becoming popular just by doing it. Yeah. I know my own daughters, that's what they look for now. They have their YouTube channel, people that they follow, and even myself, some of the educators and stuff, and that's what I'm looking at. So I'm trying to follow suit. And it was always frustrating with the podcaster, because it never really got popular in the school.
Yeah.
To listen to that format. I mean, it was popular everywhere else, and I don't know. We'll see.
But you're right. It's definitely a lot about the connections, and that's really the fun part, and that's why I'm doing this thing. I'm doing this thing because I enjoy it, and I don't much care if anyone is listening or watching, which is perhaps stupid, but I mean, heck. But of course, it's always fun if you get some kind of feedback, and if you notice that whatever you're doing with your publishing stuff, create some kind of rings in the water. It's tons of fun, but the connections you make, yep, that's pretty amazing. And if you people hear about some other folks connected to education who would like to dig a little bit more into this, I don't know what you'd call it, some kind of international collaboration thing, live video podcast combination in whatever way, I'd definitely be really interested to get in touch with folks. I think there is something we could do there.
And
so.
Do you said you're a language teacher? What does that entail? Are you teaching foreign languages?
I'm
Spanish,
teaching Swedish and English, both of them being foreign languages with me, even though I've been living in Sweden for some 36 years or something like that. My roots are in Finland, and my mother tongue is Finnish. But I'm teaching Swedish in Sweden, which is really weird. Poor souls, That's the way it is. And then I'm into a little bit into the, I'd guess, pedagogical side of tech. Like I said earlier, the nuts and bolts part of it is really not something I know much about, and I'm not any good at that either. So that's the deal.
Yeah.
And of course, international collaboration in every shape and form. That's what I really love, and I think that's something that we got to get students into as well, and the teachers.
What was that you said?
Sorry.
Well, I think I missed what you had just said, that we have
the last part?
Yeah, that we have to get students and teachers involved with
into international work, into getting in touch, in touch with their peers, if you like.
Yeah,
I think that's really, really important.
In America, it's kind of like Spanish is like the first second language that kids go to. That's kind of where, and then after that, it's usually French, and I think we have. I really don't. I guess I don't know what all they teach at the high school, but I know they have Spanish and French in the middle school, and Spanish and French in the high school, and then I think also German in the high school, and I'm not sure what else they have beyond that. So I think that at least the idea I get is that sometimes the foreign language teachers are the most interested in going international because their languages that they're trying to teach is international. So that's kind of a good way to loop that all back together.
Yeah, and sure, English is kind of a global language for many people. So I mean, it's obvious that that's the way to go in many cases. But naturally, there are amazing opportunities these days to get in touch. I mean, if you are into language learning, in a way, that's really amazing. I think that we are using this connectivity in quite a small scale somehow. It should be used more, I think, because that's the best thing with the internet access, the way I feel, actually. All the stuff we couldn't do earlier, and connecting across the borders and across the globe. I mean, it's just mind-boggling in a way. Still, that's what I feel, at least. Been tons of fun. I think soon time for me to try to get home. I'm still at work here. I guess most of you guys are, it seems. Definitely on the other side of the pond. You are just getting started, poor souls, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Kim perhaps is kind of considering going home pretty soon. But yeah, where does the wide world find you, folks? Kyle, first, getting in touch with you. How do we do that? if we don't know it already?
So I would say my external facing edutech place is on Twitter at I'm at Level Up Ed Tech on Twitter.
Level Up Ed Tech.
Yep.
Is that one word?
Yep.
Got it. Bjorn.
Basically search for Ed Listen.
Mm-hmm.
So
I did search and I found.
So I have my blog, edlisten.com. I have my YouTube channel, which is YouTube/EdListenPodcast. Twitter, I'm on at EdListen. And Google Plus, they need to use my name. So good luck with finding me specifically on that one. But I do use that the most. So plus Bjorn Behrendt is the my Google Plus, and that's where I usually talk to people on Google Plus. But I do have Twitter. I do have my blog, my podcast, and YouTube channel. So
there are still some folks on Google Plus. Isn't that something?
It is. I like the platform. I wish it kind of took off more. Right now, Twitter is getting a huge boost in the United States for both positive and negative. So I think that is like my principal. That was where he was going toward doing stuff. So we'll see. I think Twitter is still a very viable platform for getting a hold of people.
Yeah, especially getting hold of people. To me, it's been the best part when using Twitter. That it's really amazing sometimes how you can get an answer from someone that you most probably couldn't reach in another way. I mean, mailing or making phone calls. Nah, you're not getting anywhere. But all of a sudden, if you try Twitter, it's like, what? I got an answer right away. What the heck? Almost strange. Weird.
So
me being a nobody. Great. Kim, you gotta say something about finding you down south in Sweden.
Yeah.
Where to find you?
I since I've been around using Hangouts for a while, I used the lower thirds here to put in my reference, so you can find me on google.com/Kim Nilsson, just like Bjorn. And it's my Google Plus. It's easiest to find me. But you can also find me on Twitter, and then I use my nickname, which is No Substitute. So any reference to No Substitute, and it's not a Porsche, that's probably me.
You are pretty active on Google Plus.
Yes. I like it, and there are quite a few Google Educator groups around, and
Absolutely.
They are very active. Some of them are more active than others. Some of them are quite large. Kansas has a very large Google Educator group, probably the largest. They have about 5,000 members. And also, I'm a moderator of the G Suite for Education admin Google Plus community, where I'm quite active for admins.
Yep. I think Google Plus is definitely excellent for anyone who wants to get in touch with other folks working with Google services.
Yeah.
Especially in professional fashion.
Yeah.
That's like pretty amazing. But like the other, say, comparable Microsoft or Apple or something, cloud services or other services, I think pretty much on Facebook, I think.
Yeah, but like you said earlier, Twitter is quite amazing in that way that you can actually find someone who's a CEO of some big company, tweet them, and quite logically you can get an answer.
Yeah, that's really something.
Getting someone on an email is impossible, but on
right.
Twitter you can actually get an answer.
I actually found somebody with the same exact name as me, Bjorn Behrendt.
That's impossible.
CEO of a company, Europe somewhere, and I got him through Twitter.
Whoa. Yep.
Chat with him through Twitter.
Yep.
So.
Way cool. It's been tons of fun as always, and especially great thank you to Kyle that you popped in here. These other folks, they always do when they find the time, but it's really great to get you in the show as well.
Having
And
me.
hope to see you here sometime in the future as well. Would be fun.
Cool.
And like I said, in case you find other folks within education and tech interested in this stuff, what we've been talking about today, please tell me.
Okay.
Cool. By the way, it's close to Christmas. So have a really good Christmas as well. And get rested properly. I hope you get a decent Christmas break in the States as well. We sure do here in the old world. And
We get 8 days off.
oh man, that's nothing.
Now.
A couple of weeks at least. That's the way to go.
Crazy.
Have a good have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.